So now welcome in the module number 7 for differential costing or a decision making. Ultimately differential costing and decision making based on marginal costing or maybe a standard costing. Certain period of time the company needs to evaluate situations and the positions where they were identified the few ways, few paths, or maybe there are certain observations. On the basis of that observations, maybe they have a plenty of choices, and the company needs to choose any one of the right direction and the right path for the company's movement, and that is called decision making. Here the decision making is so far as concerned with the part of a decision for the company's enhancement and the company's improvisations. So here we need to take a certain decisions on the basis of informations which are available from the different financial statements in the different formats as well as in the different kind of informations. Here decision making problems, we have various methods. I'll try to sort out the few methods problem in front of you in this video lecture. Let's take one by one, and here I'm taking the first method problem, that is method related to a differential costing and incremental revenue. So the question regarding the differential costing and incremental revenue, all of you have to refer your presentation area, and in the presentation area the problem number 1 is regarding the differential costing and incremental revenue, where the some informations data is given of the manufacturing company and they use a one type of machine regarding the production and sales for a different levels. That means they were using a different capacity of the same machine, and the machine was actually used for manufacturing of one type of product, where the company needs to determine at what level the company should continue the production, as well as they will actually identify the maximum amount of profit with the use of differential cost and incremental revenue. So here the company needs to identify where the manufacturing would be continue as well as the profitability would be high. So for that we need to compare two important parameters. One is a differential cost and other one is incremental revenue. For these comparisons, the company offers a certain informations regarding that particular question. So let's begin with this particular informations and identify where the company stands. That information is given in the 5 different column. First is output, then the sales price per machine, then semi-fixed cost, then the variable cost. So the semi-fixed cost, then the variable cost, total fixed cost. So these are the informations is given. Let's begin with the first 2 columns, is very important, that is output and selling price per unit. Before that we'll just have an idea, that is table showing differential cost and incremental revenue. First column is output and second column is selling price. Selling price is most probably given per unit only, so per machine, and on the basis of this information output is given in lakh. Output is given in lakh of units. Start with this first, that is 0.80, then 1.20, then 1.60, then 2.40 and 2.80. Now selling price per machine is given in front of that, that is 220, 210, 200, 190, 180 and 170. So these are the first 2 columns informations. From this 2 column we will identify the sales value, and the sales value is How you can identify the sales value? It would be very easy when you are going to multiply this, because of output is given in lakhs of units and the selling price is given per machine per unit. So we need to multiply this and we'll identify the sales value. Now multiplication of 220 into 0.80, it comes to 176, then 252, then 320. This is the multiplication. 16 2s are 320, then 19 8s are 380, 19 2s are 380, then 432 and 446. This is your third column. Now your fourth column is incremental revenue. Incremental revenue in lakhs. Now how you can find out incremental revenue? I just want to tell you the definition. If you remember in that at the time of when we discussed the theory, incremental revenue is all about the comparisons of the revenue between the two outputs. So when you increase your outputs from 0 to 1, whatever the difference is actually identified in revenues, the difference in revenue, that is your incremental revenue. Let's begin here. First is 0.80. We have anything before the 0.80? No. So that means we don't have any incremental revenue here, because we don't have a choice to compare of 1,76,000 sales revenue with the previous one. But at the time of incremental revenue, want to identify of output of 1.20. So 1.20, the revenue is 252. What was the revenue in the previous output? That is 176. So find out the difference between these two. 252 and 176, it comes to around 76, if I am not wrong. Just yes, it is 76. So we have a difference here between 1.20 to 0.80, it's 76. This is your incremental revenue. It means when you increase your output, what was your revenue? That revenue would be compared with the previous revenue, and the difference of these revenues, it is called incremental revenue. It means that when you increase your production, whether your revenue has been increased or not, and if it is increased, then it is how much increase. That is your incremental revenue. Now the same way we will actually identify the incremental revenue for all different outputs one by one. So here 320 minus 252, it comes to 68. Then 380 minus 320, it comes to 60. 432 minus 380, it is the 380, 432. So it comes to 52. And 446 minus 320, it comes to 446 minus 432, it comes to 14. Just wanted to confirm that is whether it is right or wrong. Here 76, then 68. Then 60, then 52, and 446. That is something 14. All right. So here what we are actually identified the amount of incremental revenue in the different considerations. Now after you find out the incremental revenue, we have a next item along with us, that is semi-fixed cost. And these three items are already given in the question. Semi-fixed cost. The semi-fixed cost is given 28 for the first output, 28 for the second output, then 32 for third, 32 for the next, 36 for the next, and the last is also 36. Then we have a total variable cost. Total variable cost, and that is 53.4 for the first concern, 113.4 for the second output, 205.4 it is for third output, 235.4 it is for fourth, 275.4 in the next, and the 300.4 for the last output. And in that sense, after that the last is total fixed cost. Total fixed cost is given, but I think so total fixed cost is remain same for all the outputs, that is 22.6. 22.6 for all the remaining outputs. So this is what we have informations in the questions. So now according to these informations, now we will find out the how much total cost and on the basis of the total cost we will find out the differential cost and difference between the incremental revenue and differential cost. So on the basis of this all the fixed cost and variable cost, we will identify the total cost. So the next is make a total of all these three costs and identify the total cost. So we have a total cost with me. I'll just try to make a consideration here. The total of this cost is here. The first is 104. The total of this. The next is the total is 164. Then the total of these three, it comes to 208. Sorry, the total of this comes to, here the total variable cost is 153.4. This is something wrong. It is 153.4. This is something wrong. Just make a rectification here. The correction is 153.4. And that's why it comes to 208. Then the next is 290. Then the next is 334, and the last is 359. So in this way the total cost comes. So here, as we will find out for sales revenue, and from the sales revenue we find out the incremental revenues. So incremental revenues, how we find out the actual revenues difference between the two outputs. So on the basis of the two outputs, we will find out the what amount of revenues has changed. In the same way, we will find out the differential cost also. And the differential cost is also going to compare of two different outputs, and we find out the how much amount of cost has been changed, increase or decrease, when you compare the two different outputs. So here the next is differential cost. In the case of differential cost for 0.80 output, we would be not identified because we don't have any output previous than 0.80. But now we can definitely compare what would be the changes in case of a differential cost for the output of 1.20. So in 1.20 we have 164, but in 0.80 we have a 104. So the difference between these two is 60. So the differential cost in case of 1.20 to 0.80 or 0.80 to 1.20, it comes to 60. When you increase your production, your cost is also increased by 60. The same way we will identify the differential cost for the next output from 1.20 to 1.60, and that is around 36 and 8, it comes to 44. Then we will compare for 1.60 to 2, and that it comes to 82. Then 2.40, and between 2 to 2.40 it comes to 44, and the last is 2.40 to 2.80, it comes to 25. So this is your differential cost when the amount of cost has been changed in case of the output is also changed. Here the output is showing an increasing level only. So every particular level the company's manufacturing and output is higher only, but natural the cost would be also affected. But if you are going to see the differential cost has been varied in the sense it is not proportionately concerned, but maybe we would be having the same part of the consideration. If you are going to see the output is increased at a particular proportion, that means 80 to 120, 120 to 160, that means it's increased proportionately and the proportion is fixed. But when it applies in the cost, it is not proportionately increased and changed. It is increased in a different format, in different variety. So this was actually showing the controlling and the efficiency of the cost structure in the particular company. Now we would find out the last is difference between differential cost and incremental revenue. Because of the ask, at what level of production where the company earns maximum revenue and they can continue the production level also. So we would be identified when the comparisons of the two parameters, that is one is incremental revenue and the second is differential cost. So now we will compare these two columns. First is 0.80. 0.80 we don't have any particular incremental revenue and differential cost, so there would be no comparison. Start with this 1.20 outputs. 1.20 outputs, their incremental revenue is 76, the differential cost is 60, so the earned profit is 16 net. In case of 1.60, their incremental revenue is 68, their differential cost is 44. So how much it would be changed? It comes to around 24. 68 minus 44. This was the revenue when they increased the production, and this was the differential cost. So the difference between these two is 24. It shows that if you are changing from 1.20 to 1.60, you will earn more 24 profit. Then next is 82. In the case of 2 output, their incremental revenue was 60, but their differential cost is 82. That means the cost is increasing more than the incremental revenue, and that's why they would suffer a loss, that is minus 22. This was the different concern, 60 and 82. The next is 2.40 level. At that particular level, incremental revenue was 52 and the differential cost is 44. So here it was changed, difference between these two is 8. And the last is 14 and 25. In this case also, if you are going to see, they have a minus situation. In that case, their incremental revenue was only 14, but their differential cost is. But before that, I just want to make one correction there. The correction was here. It was sales revenue was by mistake, it's wrong. This was 476, and because of the 476, your incremental revenue was 44. It is not 14. 476 was incremental sales, and comparison of this two, your incremental revenue is 44. Now you compare 44, its incremental revenue at the output of 2.80, where the differential cost is 25. So the difference is positive. It is not negative. It's not in minus, and that is 44 minus 25.